State of Cannabis.
This is the State of Cannabis News Digest, a roundup of this week's key developments in the cannabis industry. Our top stories.
Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a sweeping law in California to close loopholes on hemp-derived intoxicants, while Colorado faces its largest wave of recalls in years, raising questions about product safety and oversight. Elsewhere, the politics of cannabis are playing out in state houses and courts. Michigan lawmakers are locked in a high-stakes budget fight over a proposed wholesale tax that could reshape the industry, while Nebraska and Wisconsin grapple with medical marijuana rollouts, one delayed, the other just beginning. In New York, regulators report a major equity milestone, even as federal courts weigh limits on licensing priorities. And in Florida, a landmark court decision has curbed police authority to search vehicles based solely on the smell of cannabis. At the national level, President Donald Trump has spotlighted CBD for older Americans, adding fuel to the debate over Medicare coverage and federal reclassification. Meanwhile, in Oregon, a legal battle over interstate cannabis trade could ripple across the country. And in medicine, a new clinical trial in Nature Medicine offers some of the strongest evidence yet that cannabis-based treatments may provide a safe and effective alternative for chronic pain. Stay with us for the details of these stories as we look at how cannabis policy, business, and science are converging, and what it means for patients, consumers, and the industry at large.
And now here is the deeper look at the key events in the cannabis world this week.
California is making a major shift in hemp and cannabis regulation. Governor Gavin Newsom has signed Assembly Bill 8, closing loopholes that allowed intoxicating hemp-derived products to be sold outside licensed dispensaries. The law bans synthetic cannabinoids and inhalable hemp products, restricts hemp in foods and beverages, and requires that all intoxicating products meet the same standards as marijuana. Regulators say this protects consumers and ensures fair competition for cannabis businesses. Enforcement will also ramp up, giving state and local agencies more authority to inspect, seize, and destroy unlawful items. The Department of Cannabis Control recently reported removing more than 7,000 illegal hemp products during inspections. Most provisions will take effect in 2028, when hemp intoxicants will only be available in dispensaries. For consumers, this means greater consistency in safety and labeling. For the industry, it represents a consolidation of hemp and cannabis under one system that could benefit licensed operators while challenging hemp producers who had sold outside the cannabis market.
Colorado's cannabis market is dealing with its largest wave of product recalls in years. Regulators have recalled marijuana products from 465 dispensaries in 2025, more than ever before. The biggest case came in September, when 710 Labs products sold at 172 stores tested positive for mold, yeast, and aspergillus. Other major recalls included edibles from Smokiez, flour from Bud and Mary's, and vape cartridges from Clearview Industries. Together, they highlight broad concerns about product safety across the supply chain. Researchers and safety experts say the problem is compounded by a lack of transparency. Colorado does not publish total recall volumes, and notices often identify products by batch numbers rather than brand names, making it harder for consumers to know what is affected. The recalls are happening as cannabis sales and prices decline sharply. Sales in 2024 fell 37% from their 2021 peak, while wholesale prices have reached historic lows. Some experts worry that financial pressures may encourage businesses to cut corners on safety standards.
Michigan's cannabis market is at the center of a heated budget fight, with billions in road funding and thousands of industry jobs on the line. Lawmakers in Lansing are debating a proposal to place a 24% wholesale tax on marijuana sales starting in January 2026. The plan, already approved by the House in a 78-21 vote, is projected to bring in about $420 million a year for roads and bridges. But the tax has sparked strong pushback. Cannabis workers and business owners rallied at the Capitol last week, warning the levy would raise consumer prices, cut payrolls, and push buyers back to the illicit market. Industry leaders say the measure could threaten the state's 47,000 cannabis-related jobs and may even be unconstitutional, since Michigan's 2018 voter-approved marijuana law did not allow for wholesale taxation without a supermajority. In the Senate, the outlook is uncertain. Democratic Senator Jeff Irwin opposes the 24% rate, while Senator Stephanie Chang has floated a 20% alternative tied to tobacco and e-cigarette taxes. House Speaker Matt Hall has rejected changes, warning the state could face a shutdown if the Senate doesn't pass the bill by the October 8th budget deadline. Governor Gretchen Whitmer had earlier suggested an even higher 32% tax. For now, Michigan's cannabis industry and consumers are watching closely, caught between the promise of better roads and the risk of higher costs at the dispensary. Michigan's Senate is expected to take up the measure shortly.
Want to stay ahead of the smoke in America's evolving cannabis landscape? Subscribe to State of Cannabis, Weekly News Digest, your trusted source for fact-checked, nonpartisan cannabis reporting. Each week, we bring you the latest on federal reforms, state laws, industry shifts, and public health developments, all in one digestible episode. Whether you're a policymaker, patient, advocate, or entrepreneur, we've got the information you need to stay informed. Hit follow, give us a like or a thumbs up. Drop a review or leave a comment. Share this episode with someone who cares about cannabis reform. Because in this industry, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival.
New York passed an equity milestone in its adult-use cannabis rollout. The Cannabis Control Board said 57% of licenses are held by social and economic equity applicants, exceeding the 50% benchmark set in the MRTA. In September, the board approved 46 additional licenses across the supply chain and finalized 4 conditional approvals, bringing the total license count to 1,904. Regulators also extended all provisional licenses to December 31, 2026, to simplify timelines and keep projects moving. The state reports $1.06 billion in legal sales so far this year at 464 operating dispensaries, with $2.09 billion since the market opened. The equity push now intersects with a legal ruling. In August, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals struck part of New York's prioritization scheme on dormant commerce clause grounds. According to the provided sources, existing licenses are not unwound, but regulators will need to adjust future prioritization to comply with the decision. Chair Jessica Garcia said the board's work is guided by equity and transparency as it refines the framework. For consumers, more licensed operators and aligned timelines promise broader access statewide. For equity entrepreneurs, the extension offers runway to complete build-outs while rules are updated to keep the program inclusive and compliant.
In a major decision, Florida's Second District Court of Appeal has ended the plain smell doctrine for cannabis. The court ruled that police can no longer use marijuana odor alone to justify searching a vehicle. The case originated in 2023 when officers stopped a car, smelled cannabis, and conducted a search that turned up marijuana and MDMA. While the evidence in that case was upheld, the court used the opportunity to change the legal standard moving forward. Judge Nellie Kuzam, writing for the majority, said that Florida's legalization of medical marijuana and hemp means cannabis odor is not automatically evidence of a crime. Odor can still be considered, but only as part of the broader context of probable cause. 2 judges dissented, citing impaired driving concerns, while others emphasized that smell alone is as consistent with legal cannabis use as with illegal possession. The court certified the ruling as a matter of great public importance, paving the way for Florida's Supreme Court to weigh in. Florida joins a growing list of states rethinking how cannabis odor should factor into policing, including Maryland, Minnesota, and New York. For patients and consumers, the decision reduces the risk of vehicle searches based solely on smell, while law enforcement will need to adjust practices to new constitutional standards.
Nebraska's medical cannabis rollout hit a delay this week. 2 commissioners resigned from the Liquor Control Commission at Governor Jim Pillen's request, which also removed them from the Medical Cannabis Commission and halted the scoring process for business licenses. The panel acknowledged it would miss the voter-mandated October 1st licensing start and will now meet October 7th to weigh up to 4 cultivator licenses. A public hearing on regulations follows on October 15th, with a legislative hearing on implementation October 31st. The draft rules envision a small, tightly regulated market: 4 cultivators, 4 manufacturers, 12 dispensaries, and 12 transporters. Each grow would be capped at 1,250 flowering plants, and dispensaries could not sell smoking or vaping products or edibles. Patients could buy up to 5 ounces in 30 days, but no more than 5 grams of Delta-9 THC from the same dispensary in 90 days. The Commission projects about 20,000 patients at launch, and all products would face strict testing. Supporters and patients voiced frustration at the delay and at restrictions they say do not reflect what voters intended, while an applicant told commissioners a harvest could take about 5 months before products reach manufacturers and 4 to 6 more weeks before dispensary sales, suggesting a long ramp-up even after licenses are granted. The Attorney General's office has warned it may challenge licensing in court based on federal law. The Commission says it will press ahead with evaluations and public input as the governor moves to appoint 2 new commissioners.
Wisconsin Republicans filed a bill to legalize medical marijuana for patients with doctor-diagnosed serious conditions. The plan would register patients through a new Office of Medical Cannabis Regulation and allow non-smokable products like oils, tinctures, edibles, pills, topicals, and vaporized preparations while prohibiting smoking. The proposal follows earlier GOP efforts that stalled and comes as polling shows strong support for reform. If the bill advances, implementation details will focus on patient eligibility criteria, dispensary licensing, testing standards, and timelines for product availability. Limiting formats to non-smokable products would align the program with prior GOP priorities emphasizing controlled dosing and packaging. For patients, the change could provide in-state access to medical cannabis for serious conditions. For businesses, the structure could open opportunities in processing and manufacturing while maintaining tighter controls than in adult use markets.
Ohio lawmakers introduced Senate Bill 266 to regulate intoxicating hemp products. The bill would require 21-plus sales with ID, licensed testing, standard labels and packaging, and it would ban child-appealing items like cartoon-branded gummies. Other bills would go further by moving intoxicating hemp into licensed marijuana dispensaries, adding a tax, capping THC potency in extracts, and limiting public use.
A major legal fight over interstate cannabis trade is back in Oregon. Jefferson Packing House filed a revised federal complaint arguing that Oregon's ban on importing and exporting marijuana and certain hemp items violates the Dormant Commerce Clause, which limits states from enacting protectionist barriers to interstate trade. The company says the restrictions raise costs and prevent scale because it cannot ship products across state lines or source from outside Oregon. The case builds on national momentum. Appeals courts have struck down residency preferences and other barriers in Maine and New York, applying the Dormant Commerce Clause to cannabis markets, while some courts disagree. Oregon previously passed a 2019 law to permit interstate trade only after a federal policy change. JPH argues the Constitution already forbids Oregon's blanket ban, regardless of federal scheduling. A win could open cross-border commerce and require Oregon to rewrite rules and coordinate with other states, reshaping the market for producers, retailers, and consumers.
And now, a word from our partners.
Massachusetts has become one of the hottest cannabis markets in the country. And this November, you can experience it all at the Harvest Cup 2025. Happening November 8th and 9th at the DCU Center in Worcester, the Harvest Cup is New England's premier cannabis competition and expo. Meet the growers, innovators, and entrepreneurs shaping the future of cannabis, discover the top products of the year, and connect with the community that's redefining the culture. Tickets are currently on sale through Ticketmaster and the DCU Center box office. Don't miss the Harvest Cup, where Massachusetts cannabis comes together.
President Donald Trump is drawing attention to the potential benefits of CBD for older Americans. On Sunday, the president shared a video from the Commonwealth Project, a Massachusetts-based advocacy group that argues hemp-derived CBD can improve sleep, reduce stress, and help manage chronic pain and inflammation in seniors. The nearly 3-minute clip calls for Medicare coverage of CBD, physician education on the endocannabinoid system, and stronger regulation of products on the market. The message comes at a pivotal moment when federal officials are considering reclassifying marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which would allow expanded medical research and greater healthcare access. The video also cites research estimating that integrating cannabis into the healthcare system could save nearly $64 billion each year. Trump's stance is part of a larger national debate. Some lawmakers want stricter limits on hemp-derived products, while polling shows strong public support for reform, with seniors among the fastest-growing groups of cannabis users. Advocates say Medicare coverage could improve quality of life for millions, while opponents worry about unintended consequences. For patients, healthcare providers, and businesses alike, the administration's next move could reshape the future of cannabis in America.
In the medical world, a landmark study has provided new evidence that cannabis-based medicines may have a major role in pain management. The trial, published in Nature Medicine, tested a full-spectrum cannabis extract called VER01 in more than 800 patients with chronic lower back pain. Researchers found that those taking the drug reported greater reductions in pain and improvements in sleep and mobility compared to placebo. Unlike opioids, the treatment showed no signs of dependence or withdrawal, and side effects such as dizziness and fatigue were generally mild. Patients also needed less additional medication, reducing ibuprofen use by about half. Chronic back pain affects millions worldwide and is one of the leading causes of disability. With opioids no longer recommended due to addiction risks, the results suggest cannabis-based medicines may provide a safer alternative. Vertanical has filed for European approval and is preparing to work with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Experts say the findings represent some of the most rigorous evidence yet for cannabis as a medical treatment, potentially reshaping both chronic pain care and the broader cannabis industry.
This was the State of Cannabis News Digest, available weekly. You can listen to us on all main podcast platforms. To make sure you don't miss out on the latest updates and in-depth analysis of the cannabis industry, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. By subscribing, you'll get notifications for each new episode, helping you stay informed and ahead in the ever-evolving cannabis market. Join us next Saturday for more insights. Until then, keep thriving and stay green.